Hello, everyone. Thank
Uh,
you for being patient.
yes,
Yeah.
thank
Hey,
you.
Kelly, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah, good considering the recent events. Obviously, we're talking on a morbid topic. It's not a great thing to talk about, but we feel, don't we, that we've got a lot of information that the average person can use to stay safe and detect a threat like this. And there's not much information out there in the world on what to do when you're actually on the ground and you hear the screams or you're with your family in a parade or a sort of setting. And obviously, we've got the holiday season coming up. This is going to be something that all of us should be attending, or whether we choose to or not. We're we got this threat here now, and we can't hide from it. It's kind of in our reality that we have to deal with. So we're going to try and discuss some tactics on the best way to deal with it, particularly if you're a civilian in the
Hmm.
environment.
Right.
Yeah.
No, and I think to echo what your sentiment is, there is a certain the high level, the planning, the law enforcement perspective of okay, how can we prevent this from happening in the future, which is great. We need those risk managers. But as individuals, what can we do to protect ourselves and our family? And that conversation is not out there as much as I would like to see it, because it comes down to little steps that you and I are going to talk about of what can you do when you go to a parade, when you go to a festival where there's a large group of people. And for me, I always remember the first rule of personal safety is you have to protect yourself and your family. Like as
Mm.
much as, and I know probably a lot of people jumping on this call right now because they follow you or follow me, is they have a protector mindset. So perhaps they want to take action. I know in a conversation that I had with you yesterday is, well, what could I have done to prevent? How could you stop that vehicle? And it's like, okay, that's the next level. What are you going to do to keep my kids safe? What am I going to
Mm.
do to protect my family? So that's really where I wanted to have that conversation, is talking to women who are watching. And I mean, the first video I saw was the young girl in a pink snowsuit who was facing the curb, had her back to the parade, and she was kind of dancing, and the car zoomed by her, and that literally made my heart stop,
Yeah.
because there was not much time in the video shot where you saw the vehicle and then it was already at her. I mean,
Mm.
seconds. So those are the type of things that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I agree. That's scary. As a parent myself, that's the worst nightmare, isn't it? And I feel like maybe I step up. I'm already, because I worked in security and bodyguard. This a lot of the skills that are going to be used by civilians are actual skills that's taught to me in my bodyguard training. I feel
Mm-hmm.
because you're literally looking after a person and you're within arm's length and you're using situational awareness to detect threats early on, and then if the time comes, you need to get that person out of the way physically. And with
Yeah.
children like that child, the emphasis is on early detection, isn't it? And that's where our whole companies are based around this, because we know the importance of it, and
Right.
we've used these skills daily as parents and as any other job that we've ever done. But yeah, for the little kids, like that video is the one I put up on mine as well, and it's just so scary. I hate even watching it. I hate having to talk about it, but it is
Mm-hmm.
reality. And what can we do
Right.
as parents, as protectors, or just civilians in that crowd? Like, it's early detection, isn't it? And for me,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about observation. Observation. Like, you need to be in a good position to be able to see the roots of the likely threat entering. And
Well,
it's also,
maybe we should start there. Like from your perspective, you and your family are going to this parade. What steps would you take? I mean, as much as you've driven there and you've parked your vehicle, and start from there. What would you do?
well, if you park in your vehicle, then you need to have a discussion with your family, and you should have some sort of contingency plans. Even if you've got younger children that aren't going to understand them with your partner, then this is the rendezvous point in case of an emergency. We come back here as long as that is a good location for it. And then when you're moving into the crowd or you're moving into the environment, I would say for me, I've designated myself as the protector of my family just because that's my job and that. But anyone
Mm-hmm.
listening today, if you're interested in this realm, then you are designating yourself as the protector of your family, no matter whether you're the mother or the father. And maybe your partner isn't so much concerned, but you need to get a grip of the family, whoever you are. So first of all, you're going to be the one that's hyper switched on during this time, because for me, this is a switch on time, especially these Christmas parades and these markets now. But we've seen it in England and around Europe, and unfortunately, it's a common attack because of how easy it is for the criminals or terrorists, whoever they are. It doesn't matter their motive. The reality is that it's happening. It's going to happen again. So yeah, move into the area. I would say keep your family very close, obviously, but also in front of you. You need to be able to see your children at all times, and you need to be able to physically get to them and move them, because they're not going to react in the same way if you detect a threat quickly.
You know, and that's a really good point, because I walk really fast. My husband walks very fast, and a lot of times those little legs don't keep up. And there's times where I'll notice, oh, wait, they're getting a little bit behind, and I'll stop to let them, because to your point, I want them in front of me. I want to see them. So that's a good point too, is making sure you keep your family in front of you.
Yeah, and also if you are working to get, like if you're with your partner, one in front, one behind is a good tactic. That's a military patrol, point there and the rear person, you know. But yeah, as a single person who's taken this mindset upon themselves, like as a bodyguard, you'd be on the shoulder of your principal, of your VIP, and that's because you need to be able to move them and also observe. It's all about observation. If you don't see that threat coming, then you're just not going to get away from it quickly or react or act quickly. But yeah, go on, what are you saying?
Oh, I was going to say too, one thing I was just thinking, and again, putting myself in this position, again, I am married to a protector. That is his natural. He's got the law enforcement military background, but I'm also, obviously, this is something that I get very interested in. So we work as a team. You know, we're two people working as a team to protect our family. And a lot of times when we leave the vehicle, so let's say we've parked, we're going to go to the parade. What do you have? You have bag chairs, you've got blankets, you've got snacks for your kids or juice cups. You've got a lot. This is where it's really strategic of, okay, make sure that bag chair or that folding chair is in something that maybe can sling over your shoulder, because you want your hands free. So you can either hold on to the hands of your children or make sure every snack or any little item can go in a bag that can also be slung on your shoulder so your hands aren't full. Because if something should happen, you want to be able to grab your kids quickly. And I know we kind of mentioned that. So thinking through that, well, how are we going to do it? Even pulling a wagon. You know, maybe you bring a wagon of some sort. There's a lot of those sport parent wagons to put everything in, because that's easy enough to, if you see a threat, leave the wagon and get your kids and go. So I think planning to pack properly, or how you're going to load in to the parade area that you're going to sit, is another thing to think of as a parent, packing before you go.
That's incredibly important. Yeah, I didn't even think of that, but yeah, that's such
why
a basic
we're here
thing, but
doing
it's
it
very,
together.
very, very important. Yeah, you need your hands free. And there's a video recently that we've seen around online with a US Marine disarming a guy in the gas station. You see he actually has keys in his hand. When he sees that threat, boom, drops the keys and he's in. So that's the same sort of thing. You need to just, anything that's around, valuables, they're not important. Human life is important. So it just gets dropped. Yeah, that's an incredibly important point.
And then as far as parking, do you have, and we're going to keep using the parade route since that's what we're kind of referencing, the Waukesha tragedy. Where would you pick to sit? What would be your recommendation? Small children, you know, grandpa and grandma are with you, aunts and uncles, whatever it may be. Where would you choose to sit along the parade route?
It's very area dependent, but literally on the ground when you're walking through, I would choose somewhere where I can see hard cover. For instance, if there are like concrete bollards or barricades, or even a big vehicle that's quite sturdy, heavy vehicle, a truck or something that you know that you're in quick dashing distance to get behind, is very important. And when you're actually moving through the ground to choose your place, as the family protector, I'd say that you should choose it, and you should choose it based on security and also observation arcs, because you want to see far down the route, because then you've got a warning of anything that's happening. If you're switched on, if you hear it, or you see disbursement of a crowd, or you hear the gasp or the screams, that's your warning to move, and you have to act quickly, obviously. But like we was talking before, it's having that plan in your head already. Don't think of it when it's happening. So when you choose your place to stand, you see that a couple of meters away, there's a big metal bollard, or there's a doorway in the stores that you could get in for a quick bit of cover. Then you've designated that in your head, right? That is my position where I'm going to go should the worst case scenario happen. And that's also a military tactic. When you're patrolling through the ground, you're constantly looking for positions of cover. We don't have to do it to that extent.
Right.
But if you are standing there with your two young kids waiting for a parade, then you should have a look about and say, oh, I could go and duck behind that vehicle there, and that will give me some cover and concealment if it was a different type of attack as well.
Right. And we did have a question come in, Dedicated Threat Solutions. If there is a startle flinch response, people will not drop items in their hands. They will grip harder. Yes and no. It all depends on the mental plan, in my opinion. You talked about the Marine. He knew to drop everything in his hands. That probably came from his training.
Yeah.
So to me, if you've got that of, okay, I'm hauling this wagon full of stuff, so if anything happens, I can drop it and run. I do agree. It's hard to know until you're in that position what your startle flinch reaction is going to be. And mentally thinking through prior is going to help you. Okay, maybe you grab it, but then you can let go.
Yeah.
Again, we're talking in generalization here because each individual is unique.
Yeah.
Because this is one thing, like, took me a long time to remember the difference between cover and concealment.
So yeah, cover is something that basically a round won't penetrate through and hit you, or a vehicle won't smash through and you'll still get incredibly injured. And concealment is just where you can't be seen behind. And if it was an active shooter, then concealment can be good enough if you've not already been seen. But if there's someone aiming, trying to get rounds down on you, then they can still do damage to you at that point. So in a situation like this, I would always, hard cover is obviously the best. But concealment, to be honest, it's better than nothing. That's the military like definition of it, really. It's better than nothing, but you always prioritize something that could stop a threat. But yeah, in that, you might not have any warning whatsoever, so getting out of the way is just the main effort.
Right.
But also to the dropping everything, your point, if you've already got your hands available, then you're not grabbing onto anything anyway. So if things are slung, then yeah. And also I think there is an instinct in human beings when your own children are involved that I've seen my partner do it, and she's not trained in anything, and she doesn't even like talking about security. She doesn't want to even think about it, but that's my burden I take, and I happily take that. But I've seen her grab my daughter in a split second and things from stepping out on the road, that happens. So I think there's something in us that is instinctual to protect our children. And I want to take that further as well for anybody that's not a parent. It's not just about parents. We're a community, and in this day and age, we need to look out for other people's children as well. If you are a protector and you're in that environment, then keep an eye on that child, like the child in the video that's dancing in the road. If you see that happening, I guarantee someone else in that environment saw the vehicle speeding and was a bit confused what's going on there. Get a grip of that child yourself. That's what I hope to do, and I hope that other people would do that for my child as well.
No, I agree. I think too, kids, how do we get their attention? That is one thing. As a parent, my boys are 8 and 10. And so to get their attention, sometimes because kids have a natural curiosity of the world around them. So they're going to not necessarily be paying attention to their surroundings in a security mindset, more of like, oh, look at that pretty float. Oh, look at the lights. Look at this, that. Is how to get your kids' attention if you do have that time. If you have a little time that you see something coming, or you're hearing, that's another thing when we talk about observation. And now in these videos, I don't know if you could hear the sound of the car engine coming closer, getting louder, and being able to differentiate between, okay, cars barely idling through a parade route have a different engine sound, have a different motor sound, exhaust sound, whatever it is. Yes, you could have marching bands. Yes, you could have all different kinds of sounds going on, but your hearing works faster than any of your other senses. So there might be something that picks up subconsciously that your heuristics processes and says something's not right. You might not be able to pick it out individually at that moment, but remembering to pay attention with all of your senses. It's not just sight. And getting your kids' attention. I liked your point of, if you see it, the child in the road, and just to keep using that example is, okay, you wouldn't even want that child to get bumped by a parade float going slower. So it's one of those where when you recognize, in my opinion, that, hey, that's not necessarily the safest place to be playing, they're fine, but I'm going to keep a closer eye because they're closer to potential hazard. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. And also going back to your point before, it's like establishing a baseline in the environment, which is a fundamental of situational awareness. So once you get there and you're with your family, you're going to listen,
Right.
take a soaking up period, listen to the ambient noises around. And yeah, it may be a bit hard to hear an accelerating car, but you may hear it. And if you're real switched on, you could hear it. You could hear the screams further down the road, or gasps, or a change in the atmosphere that could bring you on, and then your eyesight is going to do the rest of the job. So, and that is also a training point that people can practice when you are out in a cafe or are at sporting events or other events. Just try to soak up the environment, and especially if you're taking the role of protector in your family, then you should be taking this burden. Because I don't like to stress everyone else out, because we should have fun, it isn't happening
Right.
all the time. So that's why I think like one person should kind of take this role as well as working in the team, and really dive into it and take more training in situational awareness and what to do, and then direct the rest of the family as well.
And I do I agree that there should be that situational awareness as a, like individual. I'm the protector. This is my role while we're here at this event. But I do think women want to, but they do want to be part of the protector. Obviously, we joke about mama bears. Do not mess with my kids. So we do have a protective nature towards our kids, but I think the situational awareness conversation broadly seems very overwhelming, very tactical, very terminology and acronyms that we're like, wait, what? What does that mean? How does it apply to me? And so that's part of both the work that you and I are doing, is trying to break down some of those tactical, technical terms and say, listen, you do this every day, all the time. You just maybe never looked at it from this safety perspective. So I'd even challenge you, or challenge your partner to have a conversation with me, because I bet she's already got all of the tools necessary. But if she compares herself to you and all of the training you have, that can be very intimidating, and it can be overwhelming. And it's like, I'll just let Sonny take care of it. Versus saying, hey, no, let's work as a team. Like, I can do this. Because again, to your point, if you're always doing this and you're always paranoid, you're never going to get to enjoy actually being present in the moment and enjoying the event. So to me, working together and having that conversation of, okay, for you, I could see you saying, okay, I'm going to keep watch out, but you kind of watch where the kids are. Because if you see a threat coming, or you see something that's suspicious, you might be paying attention to that, which takes away from, well, where are the kids? So maybe there's some sort of a code word between you and your partner that says, hey, we, my husband and I, if any of you watched, I'm forgetting the name of the movie now with Sandra Bullock, where they had to be blindfolded so that they didn't go crazy.
I haven't seen it, I don't think.
Anyway, if we spotted someone who looked suspicious, our phrase was, well, they wouldn't need a blindfold. And so then we knew, hey, one of us has spotted someone who's acting suspicious, who's not necessarily fitting the baseline. So, okay, let's just both of us heighten our awareness. I'm going to make sure I know where the kids are. he's going to watch the person who doesn't need a blindfold. So there's different things like that of how to talk about it that kind of, when the Cooper's, colors, codes, whatever you think of that, but it just takes that next step up. Hey, we went from a really relaxed state to, oh, we're a little bit more in tune and aware, a little bit heightened.
Yeah.
I think
I agree with that. I think we also have a similar code word system for getting out of a situation when we don't like it. I won't say what our code word actually. Oh, well, it's carrier bag. Funnily enough, if one of us mentions a carrier bag, we've also used this in parties and stuff. Like if we're like, oh, we don't really want to be. One of us says carrier bag, and then disappears and the other one is gone. But if we use this in conversation and you get that look, then we're like, yeah, let's get away from this area, and then we can talk about it later without alarming other people as well. One other point I wanted to touch on that you was talking about just now is the getting attention of your kids. And I think tone is very important. Like there's a voice that I use for my daughter that I've only used a few times, and that's when she's in a bit of danger, and it's literally like, and you do see a response as well when you use that tone, quite a firm, loud stop. And then once in a while when they don't really hear it, they do, oh wow, I'm in trouble here. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's breaking the baseline. It's an anomaly. It's a tone. It's the word, or, okay, that's different. Dad, mom doesn't usually sound that way. So what's going on?
Yeah.
I think too is the staying calm. Like both of us are talking about having these, because you don't want to be all the way at a high threat situation and then panic, because then auditory shuts down, tunnel vision kicks in. You start doing the back and forth if you don't have a plan. So I think staying calm is so important, and having that conversation ahead of time with your partner is key, so that there's an understanding, there's a comfort of we do have a plan. We do have that rendezvous point getting back to the vehicle. My job is to do this. His job is to do this. We're good. So, but remembering to stay calm, because if there's a lot of chaos, if there's screaming, people crying, whatever the situation may be, that crowd mentality, that group think, can be dangerous to get sucked into. So staying calm and present is so important too. Yeah,
I agree. And just while we've got viewers on here, I just want to make a point about in future events, if this does happen again, that if that vehicle passes you and you think you're safe, you're not safe. We know from previous attacks in Europe that this is the entry into the attack. And then someone can, if it's a terrorist attack, someone's going to get out of that vehicle. And I know from personal briefings that I sat on in 2016 that this was something that ISIS was marketing in their own organization and sending out through their channels, that vehicle ramming attacks and then exit the vehicle and then attack the civilians around you. So don't think, oh, the vehicle's passed, everything's okay. Still get to your rendezvous point and get out of there is important as well, because it's not over just because you survived that first attack there.
Right. And I think that was a much nicer way than me saying, don't stick around and gawk and pull your cell phones out and start recording. Like, don't do that. Get to safety. It doesn't matter. Like, why stick around and wait and oh, I wonder if anything else is going to happen. No, whole situational awareness is prevention, is avoiding a potentially threatening situation. And especially if you have your loved ones, you have more than just yourself to think of in that moment. So avoid the temptation of, well, I want to see what's going on. Unless you're a first responder, which in my case, my husband is, but he has said, my job is to get you and the kids to safety. Once you're safe, then I can go back and respond. But keeping that in mind, don't, listen to the law enforcement. They're trying to clear the area. They're trying to keep people safe. We had a bank robbery here, and I don't want to dive off the topic too much, but we had a bank robbery with hostage situations in our city a few months ago. Gosh, maybe last spring. Time is so crazy right now, trying to keep track. But people literally went and sat across the road in the ditch to watch the situation, which only adds stress and pressure, because now you don't know, are they in harm's way? Now you've got to maintain crowd control, which only adds to the stress of the situation. So don't gawk, Put your cell phones away. You're not going to get your 15 seconds on TMZ because you caught the live footage. Like, personal safety is more important than getting the good shot.
Yeah.
Get out.
Yeah, that's an incredibly important point. And also stepping back to before an incident happens. If you're taking that protector role, you're watching this and you're switched on, then you don't really need to video a parade. If your partner's doing that, that's fine. But put your phone away and being present in the environment, just so you are observing and you're not getting tunnel vision on that phone. I mean, how many people watch back these videos anyway? I never do, you know? Or the pictures.
Right. Yes. And I know we're getting close here to the time, so I want to make sure, because everyone's got a busy day. I really think one thing that came up too, as much as we talk about it, get to safety, get away, let first responders do their job, and understand the importance of first aid, trauma response, having a first aid kit. You know, in my vehicle, I have a go bag at all time. My husband has one in his, and I don't necessarily, you know, looking around, if there's other people who have even more training than me when it comes to trauma and first aid, I'm going to let them do their thing, and I'm going to support them by saying, here, I've got extra supplies. Here, I've got a tourniquet. Here, I've got gauze. Here, I've got, you know, whatever it may be. Having that said, if you are the only one there, then having a base or somewhat understanding, foundational understanding of how to help potentially save someone's life is so important, that aftermath of an event. And I don't know if you have any specific recommendations or thoughts on that.
Yeah, it is obviously very important, but there's also the safety aspect as well of yourself. But in events like this, there should be emergency services there. And I know in America, you can all carry firearms. I just want to say, from my point of view, I don't advise civilians getting rounds down on moving vehicles in parades. That's the law enforcement's job. Even though you may be highly trained, maybe you have a different perspective what other people do. But from my perspective, that brings more danger into the element. Maybe there is a situation when it is needed, but for me, backdrops and things, you're whizzing off rounds. I don't know. But I don't know. What do you think about that?
No, and I agree. I mean, I am all for people and like having the right to own a firearm, to carry a firearm. But to your point, you have to have such a level of training with a moving vehicle, many bystanders, understanding penetration. Like, okay, if I shoot through a glass windshield, that doesn't stop. You know, trajectory of the bullet, all of these things that, yeah, there's so much more to it. I don't want to go into it other than just saying, keep your family safe, do what you can, stay calm. I think those would be the big things. Have a plan. Any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, that's this situational awareness basics really, and it's the best skill set, because like, even if you are armed and you're highly trained, if you get rounds down on that target, the vehicle is still going to be moving anyway. Right. And you need to get yourself out of the way early on. And in any situation, being aware of your surroundings and using the situational awareness fundamentals are going to get you one step ahead and give you a greater chance of saving your family, saving yourself, and even being in a position to help out in medical setting afterwards, as long as you're initially safe and unharmed. Yeah.
So where can people find you if they came from the Diamond Arrow Group?
SixSight CO on Instagram and on TikTok, and also on the flip side, if people have come from me, and
so I'm at the Diamond Arrow Group on Instagram, Facebook, and the diamondarrowgroup.com online. So very cool. Thanks to everyone for joining us. I hope you got some good tips and things to think about. Talking again, we're focused on that everyday person and how you can work as a team, you know, and maybe if you're a single parent, maybe you're going with your parents or friends, is having those conversations ahead of time can really go a long way if you find yourself in an event. Yeah,
I agree. Thanks very much for joining me, Kelly. It's been good. Yeah, I've learned a lot as well.
All right, we'll have to do this again. All
Yeah,
right, see you
definitely.
later, Sonny.
Okay. Have a good day. See you.
Bye.